live now. Yeah. Okay. All righty. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back. It's Wake the Nation time. We're back. It's been a while. We were off. We were on a hiatus for the summer, and now we're back. I had to travel in September, so we weren't on, but we're now back. 1 second. We're now back, and so welcome, welcome, welcome to this evening's Wake the Nation. This evening's Wake the Nation is entitled, What is Halloween and Should We Participate? Now, it's in the month of October, and we know in the month of October that it's the month where domestic violence and mental wellness are given recognition. Unfortunately, folks suffer from mental maladies 24/7, 12 months a year, right? So I'm going to share with you some telephone numbers. And I want to urge you, if you're ever in a crisis situation, if you ever feel unsafe, if you feel threatened, then it's worth reaching out to these numbers. I'm here with my co-hosts, Mrs. Crystal Collier and Mrs. Thais Love. So we're going to put some numbers up. I'll read them out to you. If you ever need help, we have the National Domestic Violence 24-hour hotline. It's 800-799-7233. We also have New York City 24-hour domestic violence hotline, 800-621-467. For mental wellness, it's 888 New York City Well or 888-629-9355. Welcome for 888-629-9355. And so there are the numbers, as well as the suicide crisis lifeline is 988. And you with the suicide. Oh wait, hold on a second. I'm getting a feedback. And you hold on one quick second. I'm getting a feedback. All right, I'm just going to ignore it for a minute. Let me just complete this. So with the 988 number, the thing is the Lifeline will reroute your number once your this is really, once your area code has been recognized. So if you're 212 or you're 703 or you're 416, it will just reroute your number to a crisis center, and they will deal with it. And all with your, they will speak to you, and the staff, they're professionally trained to deal with whatever issues you have. And the calls are free and it's confidential. So I urge you, if you feel unsafe, if you feel unwell in any way, reach out to one of these numbers. Okay, so there they are. And I don't know why it's repeating. So hang on a second. I'm having echoing. Hold on 1 second. Okay. All right. So, okay, it's off. I don't hear myself echoing anymore. All right. So thank you for posting that. My co-host posted it. I had, obviously, it was double playing there in the background, but sorry about that. But as I was saying before, we have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 24 hours. We have the New York City 24-hour Domestic Violence Hotline. We have the Mental Wellness hotline number as well. And we have the Suicide Crisis Lifeline number, which is simply 988. And as I was saying before, when you dial 988, you can call 988 from any state. Once your area code is recognized, then it will, the Lifeline will route your number to the crisis center that is closest to you. There are professionals, licensed professionals, trained folks there to speak to you, and your calls will be confidential and they're free as well. So please stay well, be well during this time. Now, tonight's panel, we're going to address what is Halloween and should we be participating? I just want to share some information with you, and then I'm going to turn it over to my first co-host, Mrs. Collier, and then we'll have Mrs. Love. Halloween, we know, is celebrated on the 31st of each year. And according to the history, oh, thank you, can take that down now. Thank you. Can you, thank you. All right, okay, great. And so according to the History Channel, its tradition originated with the Celtic festival called Shaman, when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. Now, in the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as the time to honor All Saints. Soon, All Saints Day was incorporated. They took some of the pagan traditions and made them a part of the day where they would celebrate a feast for the souls of the saints. Now, it became known as All Hallows Eve, and later it transitioned to Halloween. So over the time, it evolved into trick-or-treating, carving jack-o'-lanterns, festive gatherings, and donning costumes and eating treats. Now, just want to say this about All Saints. All Saints Day, like I said, is celebrating the feast for the souls of the saints. Now, that's November 1st. So we have the 31st, the day before, which is Halloween. We have or Hallows Eve, and we have the 1st, and then we have November 2nd, which I'm not sure if many folks know is another celebration, you know, and this is All Souls Day. Now, and it is also by the Catholic Church, where they commemorate the souls of those who've departed. Now, listen to this. What they say is they observe this as a way of trying to cleanse the souls of those who, and to see if you can make them fit for God's heaven. A day that is dedicated to prayer and remembrance. Now, I didn't write that. This is what they said, that they're praying for the souls who died of lesser sins and somehow would like to make it into the kingdom of heaven. Now, I will share these two scriptures with you. First one says, whatever you do, do well, for when you go to the grave, there will be no work or planning or knowledge or wisdom. I don't think anybody can pray a soul from wherever it's destined to be. The other one is, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still, and he which is filthy, let him be filthy still, and he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. He that is holy, let him be holy still. Revelation 22:11. And basically what that is saying is whatever state you die in, that's the state that you die in. No one can pray you out of it. So anyway, in addition, Halloween is considered to be the day where the line between the living and the dead are blurred. when the dead visits the living, the Bible said that the living should have nothing to do with the dead. And so 1 Thessalonians 5:22 says, stay away from evil of every kind. So the question is, should you be participating in Halloween? Now, my co-host will be sharing some information, and just, as I said, it's we're as an adult, you have your life to live, you have kids, you're going to raise your kids. However, we're just putting the information out there for you to be informed, so that whatever decisions you make, you'll make informed decisions. So go ahead, Mrs. Scullier. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to share what I'm feel led to share this evening. And here we go. So Anton LaVey is the founder of the Church of Satan. He himself declared, and these are his quotes, that by dressing up, either by wearing a costume or by coloring oneself in celebration of Halloween, signifies that you allow Satan to own you. He also said that when you adopt pagan practices, you subconsciously dedicate yourself to the devil. And he takes great joy in Christians who take part in this tradition, saying, I am glad that Christian parents let their children worship the devil at least one night out of the year. Welcome to Halloween. These are actual quotes that this man has spoken. And it's corroborated by a former Satanist, John Ramirez, who is now a follower of Jesus Christ. And he said that when you dress up even as an angel or a mermaid for Halloween, you give the devil the legal right to change your identity. And he further warned that there is a much darker reality in Halloween beyond costumes and candy. And as Flo just spoke, that Halloween is the day before All Saints Day. And a lot of people and Satanists, they honor the dead, but it's really worshiping them. Another thing I want to point out is, and this was told to me by a police officer, that October is the month that the most kids go missing. And that's not a coincidence. They have literally said that they sacrifice children and kidnap. There are all sorts of rituals that they perform on these days. Another one is that candy is poison. And Mom and I were talking earlier about this. They put pins, they poison, not to mention all the things that I've seen growing up. Toilet paper in houses, throwing eggs at people. But from a former Satanist, he said that the candy is also cursed in the store, sometimes even before it gets there. So as Christians, we really should not be participating in this day. I do have a clip I want to share, and I'm going to put the longer clip of the entire interview from him in the chat. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was church participation. A lot of churches, I want to say, quote unquote, compete with this pagan holiday and to align or appease the culture, and we really shouldn't be. We're not on the same level. We are above and not beneath. And I believe that still participating in the act of this thing with evil origins is normalizing it. So I have a few scriptures. 1 Corinthians 10:21, ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. You cannot be partakers of the Lord's tables and of the table of devils. So Ephesians 5:11 states, I have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. And Ephesians 4:27 says, do not give the devil a foothold. And I believe that even the act of accepting the candy, participating, if you say, oh, I don't want my kid to feel left out, well, which kingdom are you talking about? The kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of here? Because one is more important than the other, clearly. I think if we teach our children the right thing, they don't feel left out. And I won't say, like, I have 2 children that they felt that at one point, but I believe that the love of God in them, they just become it. That's like, no, we don't do that. I hear them telling other people that. They don't go into detail, but no, we don't do that. So, I mean, once we start to get this information out there, I think that we can make other people or Christians hope that they open their eyes to the understanding that even these trunk or treats and these harvest parties that you want to host on the same night to distract, it's only aligning. It's not distracting. So
That's not nullifying.
It's not at all.
It's joining partnership.
Right. Because I've seen a lot of them recently, even in my neighborhood, and some churches are charging for participation, like $2, $3. You're taking $2, $3 on Halloween and saying what? Because it's the church. It gets really sticky there. Because yeah, we could say a lot about that, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Funny that you said that about churches in your neighborhood. Today, I saw Reverend Lee had posted a post that stated that Apostle Ingrid saw a church that is now doing it's a pop-up store for a haunted house, a church. Yeah. We're giving you the scriptures, so choice is yours. Everyone has free choice, but at least you know. Okay, so thank you very much, Mrs. Collier. Now we move on to Mrs. Love. Let's hear what she has to share with us.
Good evening, everyone. My spin on it is that a lot of people, because of the pandemic, there was a lot of isolation, from the time when we had to shelter in place, and then with quarantining and things of that nature, there was a lot of separation, isolation, and people experience loneliness and, have a need to just get with others. And so you see that there are a lot of attempts for fellowship, gatherings, people are also going through a lot of sadness due to loss, losing loved ones, losing jobs. And so there's an attempt to find something to celebrate. And so I too have noticed a whole lot of celebration with regards to Halloween. And so there are a lot of businesses, churches, and different entities that are taking advantage of the fact that people want to come together, people are looking for a good time. And so they're trying to make Halloween something that's celebratory, it's a good time, we're just coming together to have candy and, dress up, and, you don't have to stay at home alone or stay in the house. Come on out. I was walking down the street on my way to meet a couple of clients out in Dyker Heights, and I saw whole blocks where everybody's who had a home on that block their houses were heavily decorated with the Halloween stuff. There was one house on the corner that had a whole Halloween scene where the skeletons and everything talk and move. And I noticed that the children, once they came out of school, this is like around a little after 3 o'clock, they would go past or go down that street and go past that house. And, I guess there were motion sensors. Every time someone walked past it, you know, the skeleton will start talking, and you know, you know, voices, you know, start yelling at the children, boo and and all this kind. And you would hear these little children, you know, first grade, you know, kindergarten, pre-kindergarten. They're walking by the house, and all of a sudden they hear this noise and they start screaming. And the owner of the house has the display set up that way so that every time you walk past their house, you wind up screaming, especially if you weren't aware that it was set up that way. You know, you're walking down the street, minding your own business, and all of a sudden someone goes, boo, get out, and all this kind of stuff, you know. I mean, I understand the need for celebrating. I understand even the need for gathering together. But I think that personally, I think that we can find a whole lot of different other ways to gather together, to celebrate, you know, so that, and besides Halloween. Plus, as I watch children walk down the street past that house and get scared like that and scream, I thought about, you know, their mental perspective. These are little children. They were not prepared for, you know, they may not even understand Halloween, and they're walking past someone's house on a public street, and they get, you know, frightened like that, you know, and the parent is like, you know, oh, it's okay, it's okay. It's not okay. The child was frightened enough to scream out, you know, and just situations like that, little situations like that lead to a bad experience, which would stay lodged in that child's mind for years and years and years, you know, just from the, you know, impact of simply walking by somebody's house, and all of a sudden, and you see all of these, you know, skeletons and things of that nature, and then it starts talking to you. Could you imagine from a young child's perspective how scary that really could be, and how impressionable that could be on a child? And let's not forget even adults. I mean, I walked past, and I mean, I saw all of the display, but I didn't know that it was going to start talking and stuff, and lightening up and moving and all that. So it caught me off guard as well. And so what went through my mind is that the owner of that house must have, you know, really decided that they wanted to invest that kind of money into that kind of activity, you know, for whatever reason. But
So
that's just what went through my mind. But
I want,
personally, I don't think that Christians should have anything to do with Halloween, period. Coming up as a child, even as I was raising my kids, we did not celebrate Halloween any way, shape, form, or fashion. Even you know, I even with my grandkids, you know, we don't encourage that at all, because you know, it is what it is. I mean, there's plenty of times if you want to give your child, you know, a bunch of candy, a bucket of candy or whatever, you can do that at any time, you know, if that's what you want to do. But I think we as Christians really need to walk it like we talk it, even in our own homes. We need to demonstrate God's word, even in our own homes, to our own families, and so that our children will understand what is going on, what is the real meaning behind these kinds of things, so that they too can walk in their walk in their divinity, walk in their Christship.
I
On
wanted,
TV.
okay,
Go ahead.
finish.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you a question, but after you.
All right.
completed
I
your
was
thought.
going to say on TV, parents, they sit the children in front of the TV or in front of the tablet, and if you don't watch, something as simple as a cartoon, there are subliminal messages being presented to the child in their favorite cartoon. And you're not even aware of it. The child is not even fully aware of it, and the child doesn't even understand it. But already, before even gaining understanding, the child is being programmed to think certain things, to act a certain way, to decide that certain things are good, certain things are bad. I remember a few years ago when they had a couple of TV shows on. I can't think of the name, but it was 3 sisters that were witches.
Oh.
And they were supposedly good witches. And because they do good and they fight off the bad witches and warlocks, it was on regular primetime TV. I can't think of the name of the show, but that was, people were watching it.
Samantha? Wasn't the name Samantha, the Good Witch, or something like that? No, I don't remember, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and there's another show. Oh, I can't think of the show. I haven't watched TV in a minute, so like my TV experience is leaving me. But these were shows that tried to bring across the message that there's a such thing as a good witch and a bad witch. There's a such thing as a good warlock, and they cast spells to stop the bad witches and warlocks from doing harm, and they protect. And if you want to talk about protective beings, talk about the angels.
God.
And from God, right? Talk about that. I remember there used to be a show on Touched by an Angel. I can remember that one, where it talked about angelic intervention into daily human experiences and things of that nature. And so I think that we as Christians, we should be modeling those things that we teach our children, and they should be able to look at us and see the word come to life. They should be able to see the word in 3D. Right. And when we don't do that, we cause unnecessary confusion. We cause our children to become lukewarm about God, and they start to think, well, okay, I could worship God and worship the world, and it's okay because God made the world, and all of those kind of confusions come across and cause us and even our children to live lives that stray off the path of what God called them to do and to be. Yeah. So I don't think Christians should have anything to do with Halloween. I think if anything, they should come with demonstrating Christ.
Yeah, but as Crystal pointed out, that churches are trying to, and what the Satanist said, if you're trying to host something on that same night to try to say, okay, but we'll charge money, or you can come as angels, or you could come, and he said, you're still participating in a pagan activity. And it's not about life, and it's not about God. I mean, it really isn't about celebrating life. And so it's more one that's surrounded by darkness. And as I stated before, it's a 3-day activity. It really is not a 1-day activity. That's just the eve of the day. And then the day after the first is also. So it's a 3-day activity. And, you know, you can think about all the ramifications of that. But I'm not sure if you were aware that the stat out there is that, but Halloween has become a $1 billion industry. And between the candies, the flowers, the paraphernalias, and the costumes, it's a $1 billion industry. And so, you know, a lot of people are participating in it. Were either of you aware that a quarter of the candy that America purchases go towards Halloween? Did you know that?
What? Say that again. I'm sorry.
A quarter of the candy that America purchases goes towards Halloween, the Halloween celebration.
Yes.
And that's a lot of candy. You think about in 1 month. And as you stated, there are, and I wanted to ask you a question based on this. There are houses that do have demons that are talking, voices that come out of. Some have the gravestones, they have skeletons, and it is scary for not just children, but a lot of people. And I wanted to ask, I as someone who is within my community and as a minister, I've spoken to people that are fearful, like totally fearful. And this time of year is even worse for them because that sort of scene, and they see it everywhere, and they have to pass it, and it's traumatizing. And you, as you said, especially the traumas that are since childhood, scaring a child. I met this young lady, and she, you know, she's a youth. No, she's early 20s, and she is like, she said, she lives every day in fear, and during this time of the year, it's scary for her, and she doesn't like to go out a lot. She tries to make it out early, and even in daytimes, she tries to avoid walking. She'll walk around blocks to get to her home. And as you know, I've noticed more and more neighborhoods are participating each year. So it's like, it's difficult walking on a single block, just on one side of the street. On some blocks, all the houses on both sides. And it's as if they're trying to outdo each other. So I wanted to ask, as a professional therapist, do your patients, but not to divulge any, you know, but just to in just how you say, are there folks that are having difficulty dealing with this season? Or because now it should have been 1 day, and as I said, it's 3 days really, but now it's like a whole month. And some have even started decorating in September. So folks have to deal with that, and it's become very traumatizing for some folks. So I wanted to, you know, and this is the reason why I gave out the number at the beginning for mental wellness, as well as, you know, if you're in any crisis of any kind, because this is the month. I find it so ironic, or I don't even know what the word is, that in the same month you're celebrating mental wellness, it's the same month they have an entire month of Halloween decorations and people going over. So, you know, I just wanted to, you know, ask if you could address that.
Yes, that is by design. Also, October, you're in full swing. The days start getting shorter. There's less sunlight. And people also go through the sad, and where their mood gets plummets because of the decrease in sunlight. Okay, so you got that already onset going on. Then people are you know, we are in the last quarter of the year, And so people are stressed extra because they're trying to meet, those deadlines so that they can finish the year off in the black financially as well. Plus, you have people who have just been, they've already been through traumatic experiences from earlier during the year. It's just before the other major holidays where people start to get, feel melancholy because they lost loved ones, memories, and everything. And so all of these things culminate around this time of the year. Police activity is up very high in October. There's an increase of domestic violence across the board in the month of October as well. And so this is a real rough time of the year where people are stressed, people are depressed, and then you're going to add trauma to it with all of these scary depictions and scary decorations. Yes, people's anxiety are up. A lot of the clients that I'm seeing are reporting anxiety attacks, and they don't understand why. An anxiety attack is triggered, and it could be triggered by anything that would remind you of an unpleasant or traumatic experience. And so something as simple as a child walking by a house that had skull and crossbones and a talking skeleton, that scared them, that's traumatizing to a child. And every time, that situation or a situation similar to that happens, or that child or adult even, is in a similar situation to that one, they get triggered and they go through those feelings all over again. So that child that got spooked or scared by walking by that house, the thing about trauma is you will hold on to it forever.
You do.
If you don't deal with it. If
Right.
you don't, you're right. And so that small child, those young children that got spooked by all of these Halloween decorations, they will hold on to that trauma for years and years and years. Like the 20-year-old young adult that you spoke about, how to this day now she doesn't like to go outside around this time of the year. That's her trauma, and she's trying to avoid triggers that will make her feel afraid or remind her of whatever traumatic experience that she had that made her so that she didn't want to come outside around this time of the year. There's a reason for all of that, and so yes, studies show that there's an increase in anxiety, increase in depression, increase of stress right around this time of the year for these reasons. And Halloween is a major contributor to that. Some people think it's fun to scare someone. They think it's a joke.
That part. Oh my goodness. Did you see there was on the internet, I don't know if it originated on TikTok, but where I think it's a mother, or an adult female goes outside to throw away the garbage, and this giant spider leaps at her like it's fake, but it looks real, because there are giant spiders. Maybe not here in New York, maybe not here in America, but in there are giant spiders in parts of the world, seriously, giant spiders. So, and folks, in playing pranks, that's the other thing. Folks don't know who's, and not because people are young. People have congenital heart issues. People have anxiety issues that can exacerbate the problems that they're facing. So, one has to be cognizant, and in dealing with, as we're talking about Christians, Christians should never ever participate in any of that, because as Crystal so aptly pointed out, that even to wear the outfit to participate, even if you're not wearing the outfit and you're taking your kids, you're literally like signing over and say, there's your child, or there you are. So, it's, and we have to be cognizant, to make sure, and to make sure also that our older neighbors are okay. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much going on, because
That's another population that is not even dealt with.
yeah,
Our older population, they too get afraid.
yes,
They're walking down the street and, going for a walk or what have you. They may not be as strong and even as healthy or even aware. And then all of a sudden something,
they hear those voices.
voices and everything that, some of our elder population, they might be going through dementia, they might be going through Alzheimer's, and something like that can trigger them and really make them afraid, where they experience trauma as well, and they'll have a reaction. They might, get chest pain, or they might fall, or have problems sleeping at night, from things of this nature. And so we really have to be more mindful of the kinds of things that we allow our loved ones to participate in. Besides, we as Christians, we are called to represent God's kingdom. And we represent Christ everywhere we go. We should be able to take Christ with us and represent Christ. People should be able to see Christ in us. If we're not reflecting Jesus's love, then what are we doing? We're defeating the whole purpose of why we're here. And so, it's important that we walk it like we talk it. The Bible says that we are the salt of the earth. Okay. And so we're supposed to show up with a certain flavor. We're supposed to, transform the atmosphere of wherever we go. And we're not doing that. Many of us are not doing that. And to the point where you can't tell if the person is Christian or of the world, and it used to be a time where you could tell, now the lines are very much blurred, so you can't tell. And our walk is our witness.
Yes.
And so if we can't, walk upright in such a way that people can't even tell that we are Christians, or we are that Christ is our Savior by the way we walk. If people can't tell that we are citizens of the kingdom, then what are we doing? What are we doing? And so we as Christians, we need to check ourselves and go back to God and find out where we strayed off the path, because, our children, our young adults, they're all looking at us. We represent the word. We should be representing the word. And so, but if they look and they see the inconsistency in our walk, then, no one wants that. Everybody wants to deal with what's real, what's clear. They want to be able to deal with something that stimulates all 5 of their senses, and they gravitate towards that, even Christians. But the Bible says, look not to the seen thing, because the seen thing is temporary, but look to the unseen thing, because the unseen thing is what is eternal.
Yeah.
And so we gotta, stop doing and engaging in things that, simply stimulate our 5 senses,
Yeah.
and do things to nurture and build up our spirit man, our spirit woman. That's what we need to do.
Yeah. So I want to thank you very much for your participation and just for sharing that, because as as I said before, that I find it just, I don't even know. I say ironic, and that you would have Halloween pretty much at the end of the very month, in which it's a month that's supposed to be recognizing 2 serious issues: domestic violence, which has cost people their lives, and mental wellness, and the suicide rate has gone up. And as you stated before, the seasonal disorder, the less sunlight there is, the more depressed there are folks who suffer from that, and so they're more delving into depression, and and so that's not good for them as well. The thing is, it's become very invasive, Halloween, because restaurants and pharmacies, like, if you can avoid the restaurant, all right, I won't go to the restaurant, but there are many pharmacists that participate in that, and we know that some folks go to the pharmacy to get their medication. I was going into a pharmacy and I saw 2 people standing outside, and one was holding on to the other, like just holding on to the arm, and had the head, like kind of over here, and just holding on, and so they started to walk away because I parked in the back, and I'm walking towards, and I'm seeing the activity, right? So, and then they walked away and walked out of sight. I couldn't see them. And then they walked back, and they got to the door just about the time I was getting to the door. And the young lady, apparently that was her mom. And she's saying, no, I can't go in. I really can't. No, the things. And the decorations were at the door. It was in front of all the aisles. And so, her mother said, okay. And then they just walked away. I don't know if whatever they needed. And at that point, I'm saying, so maybe the mother could have gone in, but the child, it's not even a child, it's a young woman. It's a woman. And she just felt fearful enough that she didn't even want her to leave her, just that. And, sometimes I observe these things, and I'm saying, folks have to be a little bit more cognizant and aware that there are people who are going through difficulties in their lives, and that being traumatized, that's not helping in any shape, way, or form. Going through anxieties, that's also not helping. Passing people's houses where you're not accustomed to it, and suddenly there are these voices, or you see these headstones and you hear voices coming up out of it. For kids, that, as you said, the traumas that children bear, many adults that are dealing with issues now are issues from traumas in their childhood. So we just wanted you to be aware. It's called Wake the Nation for a reason, just to let you be aware of what's out there and to give you the numbers that if you're going through any difficulties, you can definitely get help. In addition, if you know of a Christian that can help you pray, there are, the Bible has, or if you have the Bible app, you can play it, because the words in the Bible are very soothing. Not only are they soothing, they really, really help.
Healing.
Every help that you can get matters. If you know of a pastor that you can confide in, then you can do so. Get the help you need. Speak to your medical doctor, speak to your psychologist, speak to your therapist, whoever it is you need help from. Listen, there's no shame to the game. The thing is just to be well. Be well. Your life is valuable. You are priceless. You are precious. Do not think your life is not worth living, or that it has become too much for you to bear. No, there is another way out. And as a minister and a Christian, I'm just saying that God will help you through it. You have help, so call the numbers, seek professional help, reach out to a minister that is trustworthy, and or speak to family members that you can trust, because no man is an island. In unity we stand. United we can do all things. When with Christ we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. We need others to help us through it, though. When you're going through, you need, so we need the tangible physical there. So never stay alone. Even if you live alone, always reach out to someone, because you never know. So those are my final words, and I'll now ask, I'll say that Mrs. Collier had to leave. She had a pressing engagement, so she had to leave. But however, Mrs. Love is here, and she's also a therapist. And so I'll ask her to share her number and her website, that you can reach out to her as well. And remember, we care about you, we love you, and God loves you even more. So
I just want to thank you, Reverend Chang-Ageda, for even having this talk and bringing this kind of awareness. These are the types of things that we as Christians should be doing. Sounding the alarm, making the alert, because it is very obvious that the enemy is advancing his kingdom. And while he's advancing his kingdom, those of us who are Christian, Christians, we also should be advancing God's kingdom. And we need to speak out on these different things. If other groups and organizations, if there's some kind of activity that's going on that's offensive to them, they protest, they make a lot of noise.
That's
and
true.
It's
You're
like,
right.
hey, that's no longer politically correct, so we won't be able to do that. And every other group can speak out and bring awareness to how a certain activity or a holiday or things of that nature offend them and make them feel away. I hear nothing from the church. Why is that? Halloween is everywhere. Like you were saying, if you're going into the pharmacy to get your medicine or what have you, you have to deal with that. That's an offense to some people.
It is.
The most
it really
people,
is.
I'm saying, but nothing is being said. Nothing is saying, look, I'm a Christian. I find that, skull and crossbones, on my pharmacy door, I find that offensive.
Oh, it's not just skull and crossbones. They've gotten dark.
No,
I'm really dark.
An example, but we need to speak up. We need to become more vocal and continue to bring the awareness that it's not okay, to do all of this. I mean, just from the mental health perspective alone, you know, having those scary images up, you know, as decoration, you know, with the blood and the you know, spooky and the death and the tombstones. How many people have suffered the loss of loved ones? That's insensitive at this point to have
Thank you. Thank you.
tombstones for decoration. Really?
Mhm.
You know, but more has to be said. We as Christians should be making a whole lot of noise, but yet we're not.
That is
And so I applaud you, Rev, for bringing up this topic so that we could have this talk, so that others can, you know, be aware and
yes.
you know, take action. I mean, the pharmacy, that should be open to any and everybody. No one should be offended as they're going into the
Or afraid.
or afraid. Exactly. Your supermarket, you know, no one should have to.
Oh my goodness. Can
in
I tell
fear.
you? Can I tell you though? I'm not going in those supermarkets. I'm sorry. I went into a supermarket to buy something. This is true. And at the beginning of each aisle, they had, one of them had these dark things. The other one had like ghosts represent whatever. I was like, I'm not spending my money there.
Exactly.
It's up to me to, and I turned
Right.
out and I went to another neighborhood to go shop.
Exactly.
I
I
took-
mean, we can do things like that. Support your Christian organization with your
There you go.
dollar.
There you go.
You know, speak out on this. You know, have events that, you know, bring awareness to the traumatic impact
Yes.
of this,
Yes.
as well as the straight out offense that's, you know, against our faith.
Yeah.
You know, and we're just expected to just, you know, chalk it up, ignore it, or, you know, just go on and act like it's nothing, but it's highly offensive.
Yeah.
If you for our Jewish brothers and sisters, if you you decorate your house with a bunch of swastikas, you know, somebody gonna say something to you.
Of course.
You
And
know,
the police will come for you. Homeland Security too, if you're not careful.
Come for you. Just
Yeah, no.
on that, you know.
No, so, but as you said, no one stands up for. But as I've seen, because I've passed houses where I've seen children are running and screaming. A little girl, just reminded me, a little girl almost ran out into the street. Thank
Yes.
goodness her father had her hand. He had to lift her up, and she was like, she was about yay high. Look, she looked like I think maybe 9-year-old or so, but
Wow.
it just, she was very slim, but it just scared her. She was like, she was taking off. And
Yeah.
had he not grabbed her, because a car was coming down, thank goodness the street was a quiet street too, you know, that people don't really drive that fast on that street. But the thing is, there she was, you know,
Right.
and she just started crying. And so he had to cross the street with her. And even when he stopped to try to console her, he had to lift her and just walk
Yeah.
her further away from, before stopping to speak to her, you know, to try to calm her down. And the elderly, I've spoken to elderly folks that they're afraid, like
Yes.
physically afraid.
Right.
And so,
Right.
but you know, no one cares about that. Not too many people care about that. I won't say no one, but not too many people care about that, because it's become a billion-dollar industry. And so, as you've said, people are trying to stay in the black, and you know, if I can make money doing that, but at what cost? I think lives are more valuable. And so,
Right.
you know, these folks don't care because they're actually celebrating the dead, and the dead is dead indeed. The Bible tells us they know nothing, and nobody can pray them into heaven or out of hell.
Right.
As that's what the Bible says. So we just need to shun the very appearance of evil. And we're supposed to be children of light. The Bible tells us we're children of light, walking in light. So we have to shine the light for others to see the way, to find their path into light themselves.
So true.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rev.
All right. So you have a wonder. By the way, happy birthday to you and your grandson.
Oh, yes.
Both are celebrants, October celebrants. We have a bunch of October celebrants. So, celebrate happy birthday to you guys, and blessings and long lives, and all goodness and light to you during this season.
Thank you so much. And if you need someone to talk to, you might be experiencing trauma, anxiety, you're just simply not feeling like yourself. It's okay not to be okay, but then go and talk to someone. If you don't have anyone that you feel you can talk to, Rev and I will be more than happy to talk with you, pray with you. Like Rev stated earlier, I am a therapist and a minister. You can feel free to give me a call. I'm a therapist for Dunamis Sound Mind Services. You can call me at 718-576-8110. And so you can feel free to call me. If I don't pick up, leave the message. You can text me at that number as well, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But you're not alone. Even if you live alone, you're not alone. And so reach out to others. Try to fellowship with people in a positive way. If you can, find a church home. Studies show that participating in active worship activities actually extends your lifespan by an average of 4 years. What does
Yes,
that mean?
I've heard that.
People who go and have a regular place of worship and they actively participate, they live 4 years longer than those who don't. So get your worship experiences on, okay?
Yes, yes.
Also, those who actively participate in worship or have more than one worship experience per week, have better mental wellness. They have stronger and increased mental stamina as well than those who do not, or who may have one or less worship experiences per week. So I say all of that to say, worship is good for your health, okay? So find a house of worship that you feel comfortable in.
But they can find one online.
Yes, you can find
online
one
now.
online. Yeah, you can find it online. Or walk around and find one. But the key is, just because you live alone, you don't have to be alone, and you're not really alone. Okay, so connect and stay connected. and connect to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because He's the main connection to everything.
Yes.
That's me.
He
So
helps.
thank
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you once again. And I will put Reverend Love's number and her organization that she is a part of, Dunamis Sound Mind. I will put that in the chat, and I will upload this to my YouTube channel, and I will put that information there as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. We're now on, it's the third Sunday of each month. It's once a month. So, tune in, be prepared. We have many topics to deal with. Whatever concerns you concerns us. And as Reverend Love says before, she said, you're not alone. Help is a phone call away. And even closer is when you call out to the Lord. He is just a prayer away. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for tuning in. Please share with your friends and family members. Remember that you are loved. Good night. Thank you.
you. Good night.
Mhm.